Hey, it seems like we are live now. Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin. I'm from Bitcoin for Beginners, and I am one of your Reddit event hosts. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Today, we're going to chat about Nano, do a deep dive, because most of the time I do kind of more short and sweet overview videos of coins. But today, I want to really drill down into how Nano works and hopefully help some of you guys learn something that you haven't before about this project that I came to know through Nano, or I came to know through the Reddit community in the crypto space. And I do want to disclose that I own just a tiny bit of Nano, but as always, I want to try to give a fair and unbiased overview and point out some concerns I've seen around the space, and hopefully get your thoughts too on this whole project, what you think. And of course, I'm only human. So if I made any mistakes at all during this presentation, please write me in the live chat or the comments afterwards. And I'll definitely take a look and try to fix it for future presentations about this project. Thank you for being here, Henry Phillips, and our cryptocurrency mod. Sounds good. Let's get started. Let me just screen share. Okay, screen share should be on now. So what is Nano? Just a very high level overview of first. It is a cryptocurrency focused on the currency part of it, with a focus on peer-to-peer transactions. It was launched in 2015 as Rayblox or XRB, and the rebrand happened early this year, January 31st, to Nano. It is designed in particular with speed, scalability, energy efficiency, and fees in mind, or zero fees per se. And it's not a blockchain in the traditional sense. It's actually a directed acyclic graph structure. So it's in the same class or family of projects as like IOTA, Byteball, and even Hashgraph. So the main components of Nano include an account, which is a single address generated by a public key, a block, which contains a single transaction signed by your private key, a ledger, which is a global set of accounts, and each account has its own blockchain, as you see on this slide. On the right-hand side, these are each accounts and their own account chains. And then the node, which is the software that you run that kind of verifies the ledger, makes sure everything is correct by the protocol's rules, and controls any accounts like sending and receiving blocks and transactions if they have any attached to that node. Let me just check real quick the live chat. I'm going to switch between the live chat and my presentation every once in a while, just to check if anyone has any questions or anything to add. Second thing is this very big block lattice structure. And every transaction requires two things: a send transaction that deducts an amount from the sender's account balance, and a receive transactions on the receiver's account chain that adds that amount to the receiver's account balance. So these are done separately. So order can be kind of determined by the receiver. Like if you receive 3 separate send transactions to you at the same time, you can order them as you please, and the balance should all add up regardless at the end. Each transaction encodes the account current balance. So this helps with nodes pruning the history. So you don't have to have everything all different, like +2, -6, +10, whatever. You don't need to add it all up every time like in other crypto coins. Instead, you can just look at the latest ones. There's also a difference between settled and unsettled transactions. For unsettled ones, that means the receive blocks have not been generated or signed yet. So those are still considered unsettled and not reflected on their balance yet until they do that action. So now I want to walk through some notable processes in Nano. What all can you do with your coins? What all transactions happen? What all steps do you have to take? First thing you do is to create an account. And to do so, you issue an open transaction. And at that time, you pick a representative as well. I'm not going to touch into what a representative is until a later slide. Your account balance is also something that is included in each block, like I said earlier. When you want to send funds, you have to do a send transaction. And this means that funds are immediately deducted from the sender's account. It is considered pending until the receiver signs a block to accept funds, but the send block is immutable once confirmed. On the other hand, you have a receive transaction. Remember, everything requires two different types of transactions, send and receive. And then you create a receive block on the receiving end, you broadcast that to the network, and then you update your balances. Picking representatives is also a very important part because this is where they kind of vote on behalf of you, kind of like delegated proof of stake. And if you want to change your representative, you can do so at any time by issuing a change transaction. They vote on an account's behalf, but they have no power over your funds. Only you and your private key are in control of your own account's funds. Anyone can be a representative, but you have to have over 0.1% of Nano's supply as stake or as like a voting stake delegated or assigned to you by other people voting for you or choosing you as a representative. Now, why are representatives important? They are important when it comes to forks or voting in the Nano system. So this happens when multiple blocks claim the same previous block. Remember, every account chain has a chain of blocks. You have to reference to a prior block and then update your balance on top of that. So it is possible for two different blocks being swirling around that reference the same prior block, but only an account owner can sign blocks. So if you think about it, that means you or your account must have kind of, or an account controlled by you must have signed two conflicting blocks. So that's possible if there's poor programming for the software controlling it, or if a double spend is trying to happen. So obviously we don't want that to happen because that would break the whole protocol and break the whole system. So when that comes into play, a representative chooses a block that they want to deem as correct, and they broadcast their weighted vote for it, weighted depending on how many stake they have or how much balance they have, how many people they have voting for them. And then they wait 4 periods of votes and then keep the winning block after listening to everybody's votes collectively. And the one that has the most wins and gets selected as being correct. There's also proof of work in the Nano process. And this is done for all Nano transactions, but it's not what you imagine when you think about Bitcoin proof of work. This is only a very tiny and easy computation for anti-spam purposes, kind of like hash cache. Also, this computation is computed, or it can be pre-computed for the next transaction after one is sent. So in a sense, it's instantaneous to the end user because the pre-computation is so fast that you can't send more transactions when you're using your client. So it seems instantaneous to you, even though technically there is a slight wait time. Now, there's also a process when it comes to verifying transactions to make sure that they are correct and should be accepted as a transaction in the system. You have to check for duplicate transactions, of course. You have to check for the account owner's proper signing of the block. You have to check if the previous block is the head of the account chain. If not, there may be a fork, and you have to go through the previous process with representative voting. You have to check for a presence of an open block, which is one that every account needs to issue before being a valid account. And then you have to check that the computed hash included in the block or transaction meets the proof of work threshold. Let's see. Okay, no questions so far. As always, definitely feel free to ask me any questions or correct me at any time. I'll definitely take a look. Now, the next part I want to take a look at is distribution. Nano, of course, has no mining, so it is completely pre-mined. Max supply of roughly 133 million and some change. It was initially passed out through some faucets with a manual mining approach where you can solve CAPTCHAs. And initially it was like a visual CAPTCHA, but then some people started abusing that. There was like bots trying to attack that. So they changed it to an audio CAPTCHA. This is what I read, of course. I actually, unfortunately, wasn't able to participate because I didn't know about this project back then. But the audio CAPTCHAs are pretty hard to solve, and you can only get, I believe, like 10 or so ray blocks at a time, near the end of the process, at least. The distribution rate was 17,000 nano or ray blocks back at the time per hour. And it stopped after 39% was distributed and the rest of the supply was burnt. Now, the devs did keep roughly 7 million for dev fund, which was 5% of the whole supply at that time. This whole process of distribution was stopped at October 17th, 2017. And if you want to take a look at the official statement about this, because there's some different numbers and different dates and different information swirling around, you can look at their github.com/nanocurrency and then look at their distribution, mining, and units page. This is where I got the information from. So if it's incorrect, then they should probably update that page. Now, current distribution. This is a nano rich list I got from nanofaucet.org. And you can see the addresses and how much nanos they own and the percentage of nano in each tier. So basically, this is taking a look at how much is controlled by whales, right? Like the balance between 1 million and 10 million. And the balance between has 10 addresses have that amount. And 110 have between 100,000 nano to 1 million nano. And that represents 24.53% of all nano. Pretty top heavy, but to be fair, a lot of coins are top heavy in terms of like even the biggest ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever. All of those are pretty top heavy too. So not something we should really rail on Nano about, or at least we can't do this fairly unless we hold the other ones to the same standard as well. So in terms of their team, here is the image of all their team, but I want to go to their website. AJ, I believe the top address is Binance. I'm not 100% sure, but yes, it seems like a lot of people do want to hold their coins in exchanges, even after what happened earlier this year with BigGrail. So, yeah, I mean that is very interesting that that's probably the case. But let's take a quick look at their team. Right, we have Colin as the creator with 10 plus years as a software developer. Russell Waters as lead developer. They have quite a few developers, not only on the core protocol, but also on like infrastructure, on wallets, and so forth. This team has grown a bit since I last took a look a few months ago. So definitely a pretty serious team. I would say pretty legit team. And even Charlie Lee came out to say that the devs seem to have their heads screwed on straight, and they're really going for adoption and hoping for the best of Nano, not doing just as just a quick way to like make Lambos or whatnot. Oh, quite a few. Let's see. Top 5 addresses are exchange and dev fund. That makes a lot of sense. Right. To the cryptocurrency mod, I'm not sure about that. I haven't seen any work recently, but there's probably quite a few people watching. If anybody knows if there's any more like forensic analysis into how much of those top funds are actually owned by like one person as opposed to different amounts of addresses, because one person can technically own different addresses and just split their funds into multiple ones. KuCoin of Binance the other week was the fastest confirmed transaction ever. Yeah, I mean, Nano is super fast. Assuming there's no issues with the wallet you're using or with the exchange's implementation, then it is indeed super fast. And one of the main sticking points when it comes to why people love this crypto coin. Okay, let's go back to my slides. So Nano also has put out a roadmap on their website, which I really love how they designed this. Most teams have roadmaps that are just like really high level infographics and don't really tell you too much. Nano, on the other hand, has put time into making this roadmap, and they've showed you what all they're working on, what their plans are, what the challenges are, what headway they've made in each space. Really like their roadmap that you can catch on their website. So I want to walk through a few points on what you can look forward to in the coming months or year. Adoption roadmap. They want to build out a cloud infrastructure for vendors, exchanges, and other Nano service providers so they can more easily utilize Nano in their business without having to build an infrastructure from scratch to support the transfer of Nano. They also want to create they're also in the process of creating a plug-and-play point-of-sale solution for merchants to accept Nano. So this means they will have like ability to support different hardware devices in order to like potentially use Nano on your mobile wallet and just pay at a merchant. They also are trying to build communities for and increase marketing to global markets, and they specifically name Asia and South America. Finally, they're looking to increase fiat on-ramp options for Nano, which is, of course, what all crypto coins want to make it easier for other people to adopt it. Now, in terms of the protocol roadmap, they already have completed the universal block update. And this means, remember, I said there are different types of transactions: send, receive, change, and open. They want to all consolidate that into a single type of block, which will make it more efficient and allow for more aggressive pruning, which will make it more lightweight instead of like storage or the amount of data you need to hold to run a Nano node. They're also working on improving ledger pruning and allowing nodes to only keep the head or the most recent block and a few behind it instead of a long list of account chain for all different accounts. They're looking at making Nano more decentralized by improving vote distribution, by trying to split up the amount of representatives there are, so it can be more decentralized in terms of voting for forks and for which blocks to accept and whatnot. They're also working on a security audit via HackerOne with different white hat hackers, and HackerOne has been utilized by different crypto projects in the past. Hopefully this will make them even more secure in terms of finding potential bugs and problems so they can fix it before more people potentially find it and try to attack the system. Let's see. Yes, Sakov, you are correct. They have already completed universal blocks. I do believe I have included already done next to it, but it was something that they accomplished. So I kept it there so I can just show people that they have been delivering on their plans. Okay, so some advantages and disadvantages. These are just a few come across my mind. I know there's been extensive discussion on Reddit, especially on the R cryptocurrency and the R nano currency subreddits. One of the biggest advantages is the community passion, especially on Reddit. I'm a big Redditor. I read it all the time. When I'm eating, when I'm chilling, I read R cryptocurrency and other cryptocurrency subreddits. So it is a hugely popular darling of Reddit and other crypto communities. That has gotten them listed on exchanges and merchants to adopt it just purely based on people asking them to and voting for it when they have an open poll. So that is that's an advantage that should not be underrated because ultimately adoption comes from the community being active and telling more people about it, getting it supported on merchants, different businesses, and so forth. They also have a really active team that I like. They have great communication, put out constant updates, are accessible via their channels on like Telegram or on their Twitter, putting out updates on blog posts and whatnot. And furthermore, this is a kind of more umbrella advantage. The last one, they are just focused on usability. That's their ultimate goal, on making Nano the most usable cryptocurrency possible. And so that's an umbrella for all the different features they have, being fast, being scalable, being zero fees, energy efficient. And this is particularly important because their focus is heard by the crypto world at a time where other cryptos are struggling with all of the above. That's why during the bull market and when other cryptos were struggling with high fees, with scalability problems and so forth, Nano was such a kind of talked about one, buzzed about one, because they had solutions to all these problems. Now, in terms of disadvantages, and some of these were already mentioned earlier, but they don't have a lot of marketing or brand rec outside of like more niche crypto communities, especially in the Western world. So that's why they did note that, and they are going to eventually work on improving brand rec to other countries, especially in like Eastern countries or Latin American countries and so forth. I'm not sure exactly the progress of those marketing campaigns, but I'd be interested to find that out if they have a more recent blog post or some tangible progress in that space that I can take a look at. Also, disadvantages, just growing pains of being a young crypto coin. If you guys recall, Nano had some exchanges struggling to implement their node or architecture properly, which has resulted in very kind of what word am I looking for? Kind of frustrating withdrawal and deposit delays. Also, in terms of the big grail fiascos, some investors have become disillusioned with Nano, not at the fault of the team, but regardless, they bought in Nano during the hype and then they lost their funds. At least some of them did. And so that has potentially made some of them disillusioned and not want to explore Nano or give it a second chance. Also, in terms of incentives to run nodes, right? There's no like mining, there's no block rewards or anything. So there's no protocol level incentives to built in to run nodes. Ultimately, the incentives that the team said is that like if you're a business and you want to utilize Nano for all its great features, then the incentive there is to support the ecosystem by running a node there. If you want to be a part of the Nano ecosystem and kind of see it grow and utilize the technology. But I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about advantages and disadvantages as well. I tried to include the major ones I saw. Of course, there's a lot more. Some of them heavily debated, but these were ones that I felt comfortable including in terms of advantages and disadvantages. And of course, this is Big Girl Hack, definitely a thorn in the side of the Nano community. Definitely a lot of drama and debate around this, and probably unfairly put on the shoulders of the team, even though it technically and most likely wasn't their fault, but definitely an interesting part of Nano's history. I mean, just like Mt. Gox was part of Bitcoin's history, we should take a look at this as part of any full discussion around this project. And so I just included some highlights and snapshots of what went on. But basically, 15 million XRP was stolen from the exchange, roughly 150 million worth at that time. And this was announced early February of 2018. Francisco Ferrano was the owner of BitGrail, and there was a lot of drama between him and the Nano core team. He asked them for a hard fork after he realized that there was a mismatch between the amount of Nano that was owed versus the amount that they had. But the team rejected their proposal, so there was a lot of mudslinging from like both sides. But they said after further review that that was not a protocol issue, rather one with BitGrail's software or implementation. It also made it really hard to debug at the beginning of the drama and the whole event, because there are some issues with the block explorer's timestamps. If you remember, Nano doesn't have timestamps in their blocks or transactions, but nodes themselves can place timestamps when they receive different transactions that they hear around the network. And so you can still create a blocks explorer from it, but different nodes might have different timestamps. Also, this resulted in the Italian authorities being involved because BitGrail is based in Italy, and also some class action lawsuits, I believe, against both BitGrail and the Nano team for various involvements and like consumer negligence and whatnot. Okay, let's see about the... How does Lightning Network... Yes, Scott Stevens. I also read that. Um, I didn't want to dive. I didn't want to turn this into a history of the Big Grail hack in depth one, but I still feel like there's a lot of things that are unclear and haven't come out about exactly what happened yet. And let's see, Nano works now. Lightning's going to take a long time. To the cryptocurrency mod, I'm not too well read into Lightning Network yet. I feel like if it is implemented in terms of all the promises being made by the Bitcoin team and the community, then it could threaten Nano. But I guess we'll see because it's not quite mass adopted yet. So in terms of online merchants, there are 100 plus online merchants accepting Nano. I got this screenshot from usenano.org. They have everything listed. Now, admittedly, a lot of it is like small mom and pop shops and specialty shops online, but it's always good when more merchants accept different cryptocurrencies. So as this list grows, it's just better for Nano. And a lot of these are probably great, and the sole effort of the Nano community being passionate and asking their favorite online shops and even the ones they own themselves have started integrating Nano and getting them accepted. I guess now the thing is that people need to go use Nano when purchasing stuff from these websites. That would help with increased adoption. Another part to show from the community powered adoption is brain blocks. I believe this was made by a fan from the Nano or formerly Rayblocks community. He coded a easy checkout solution for Nano so that websites or retail stores that wanted to accept Nano and accept payment for it for their products or services could use their implementation very easily and hassle-free. So it's really cool to see this project come out from a supporter and part of the community. In terms of wallets, they have a lot of wallet options. They used to not have this many. They have online wallet options. They have mobile options. They have desktop options. They are also supported on the Ledger Nano S. And they also have a node and developer wallet. I can't say I have owned or tried out all of these. I have tried out the node and developer wallet and a previous version at least. And my own experience is that it was a little bit difficult to use. They don't have a gorgeous UI as opposed to some of these other ones. And I ran into a little bit of trouble like getting it synced up and whatnot. But that was for older version and may have improved since then. And I haven't tried out these other wallets, which may be way better, way more beautiful and easy to use, easy to figure out than the one I did a few months ago. In terms of exchanges, now they are listed on major exchanges with legitimate volume. I remember back earlier this year in January and February, that was a huge issue. And that's why the Big Grail thing happened, because it was listed on small no-name exchanges like Big Grail, Mercatox. I forgot which other ones, maybe like Gate.io or something. But there was only available during from shady exchanges. So it's hard to get access to, and people had to do really risky stuff to get it. But now they are on major exchanges, so this is really good for the project. Okay, everyone, that is it. Thank you for watching. What do you think? I tried to do a really comprehensive view of how Nano works, the different kind of transactions, the different processes, different components, some history, distribution, the hack that went on, advantages and disadvantages. Let me know what your thoughts are in the live chat. I will not stop the stream quite yet, but if you can give this channel, this R Cryptocurrency channel, I will try to be on either me or Adrian every Wednesday. Just a support by giving us a smash that like button, comment below if you have any questions. Oh, wow. We got a lot of comments on the live chat so far. Let me see. That is true, yes. Second layer solutions can be implemented on any protocol. Fast first layer as light and efficient as possible. That one I do agree with. It makes a lot of sense. Nano crawler. Let me take a look at this real quick. 418 Nano representatives online. 55 online rebroadcasting representatives. Let me go back to screen share, by the way. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this is really interesting. This is really interesting. Okay. Oh, wow. Lightning Network has that many nodes? Oh, wow. We do need to do a Lightning Network deep dive. Yeah, Justin, I think we should do a Lightning Network deep dive, maybe like next week or something like that. That would be very interesting. Lightning Network. Oh, wow, this is fascinating. I didn't know that they had that many nodes. Strong privacy protections. That is definitely good as well. Gun Logger Calvi asks how each has its own like each address has its own account chain. So you're constantly updating your own balance. And if you take a look at the right side of this, if you this is from the white paper, but A, B, and C are 3 different accounts, right? They each have their account chain. And if nothing happens, then your balance stays the same after your initial open transaction and you receive some sort of balance, right? But if you make a change, like let's say I'm A and you're B and I send you some Nano, then I have to do a send transaction and you have to do a receive or a receive transaction, a receive block to kind of settle that transaction and update our own account chains. So as send blocks and receive blocks happen, you're like constantly updating your account chain. And then the latest one does include what your final balance is so far. And then if another one happens, you update, and then you have your final balance up there as well. So this is what a block lattice means, right? Like it's a lot of account chains, and then when you send it to another address, that is kind of the lattice part of it, where you kind of you're tied to that other account. You're tied to that other account chain. There's 2 parallel ones, and you're tied when you send a transaction to them. Well, I mean, distribution of voting weights. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think this is it. As always, if you have any further comments, please let us know in the comments below after you're watching this. I hope you enjoyed this Nano deep dive. And also, if you could support me by checking out my channel at youtube.com/Bitcoin for beginners, I will be there as well. But as always, my privilege and my honor to kind of give back to the cryptocurrency subreddit that I always read, that I always love to check out, and really enjoy being a host for you guys. This is Kevin, and I will catch you guys next time.